rational and unbiased perspective on current events and life in Tampa Bay. He's a successful entrepreneur, published author, top listing agent, a real estate and finance expert that goes to bat for you every day as a consumer advocate. Your host and the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes.
This is the Consumer Quarterback Show with Brandon Rhymes. Brandon is out today. My name is James DeJerome. I produce the show for Brandon. I've been with him for a couple of years now. The Consumer Quarterback Show was started about 7 years ago. Brandon had this idea that he could bring his network. He's a real estate professional in the Bay Area, has quite a bit of experience that way. He constantly dealing with home-related services and people that were part of his deal that he had to make. So he thought, why don't we bring this network out there for all the people in the Bay Area? And since then, we've expanded into health and legal and all sorts of different issues that we feel there's value for you. We want your dollar to go farther in the marketplace. That's the whole idea behind the Consumer Quarterback Show. We found a bunch of like-minded business professionals that come on the air and take time out of their busy day to share information and make you a little bit smarter in the marketplace. And we want to talk topically about things in the news as well. Today we've got attorney Joe Pippen. I'm going to introduce him in just a minute. You may know Joe. He's had a successful radio show for many, many years. We're going to talk to him today about what he does and what he can offer you in terms of knowledge. We have a great team of partners, as I mentioned. We also have a great team of sponsors. One of the sponsors we've recently brought on board is Jade's Premium Quality Cleaning. As I mentioned, Brandon, being a real estate professional, has the need for a cleaning company. A lot of times you need a property cleaned in a hurry. Jade can handle that. You know, she's a local business, family-owned business. And if you're looking for a cleaning company with COVID-19 certification, one that uses eco-friendly products, again, family-owned. We talk a lot about keeping our money in the Bay Area, locally owned business. That's Jade's Premium Quality Cleaning. Check them out online. A lot of great reviews there. As I mentioned, Brandon is a real estate professional. He owns the Platinum MVP team. He's a Keller Williams agent, and we're going to pitch some properties today on the program. Any of the real estate you see pitched or heard on the program, you can get in contact with Brandon about. Johnny here is going to throw up a few properties for us. We're going to go through a few. We've got one in the Seminole area. If you're in the Seminole area, you want to get into 213 Dogwood Circle. This is a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. It's a 2-car covered carport, exceptional water views. This is minutes from the beach, guys. So if you're looking to get into the Seminole area, Brandon's got a property at 213 Dogwood Circle. Get in touch with Brandon and the Platinum MVP team, whether you're buying or selling. Don't leave money on the table. He's got properties even in this low inventory time. Again, here's one in Riverview. If you're interested in the Riverview area, 13204 Fawn Lily Drive. This is a 6.5 with a 3-car garage. This has a covered and screened lanai. It's right on the water. What a beautiful property. Again, if you're interested in getting into the Riverview area, Brandon has a great property at 13204 Fawn Lily, a 6.5. Again, Brandon has commercial opportunities, residential opportunities. Don't leave money on the table. Get in touch with Brandon and the Platinum MVP team for all your real estate needs anywhere in the Bay Area. As I mentioned, attorney Joe Pippen. We've got him in studio right here at Salem Media Group Studios. Joe, it's so great to have you back. Tell us what we're going to talk about today on the air.
Well, my primary practice area is estate planning, so usually we talk about that, but we can talk about anything you like.
Well,
except maybe the election. I don't really want to talk about that.
I'm all done. I'm all done with that. Joe, estate planning, people think out there, well, that's my will. It's a little bit more in-depth than that. There's lots of options for folks out there. Talk a little about, just define some of the terms you're going to bring up today with will and trust and some of the different things so people understand what it is we're talking about.
Well, people think when they go do a will, that's all they really need, and nothing's really going to happen that's difficult or costly or time-consuming when they die. They have a simple will. They leave everything equally to their 3 children. The will says that. Point somebody the personal representative, and they think they've done everything they need to do, and they've done a good job.
Right.
Well, I would, congratulate them on doing a will, because a lot of people never even get that far.
Mm-hmm.
But their will's not going to work probably the way they think it is. Number one, they nominated the personal representative to serve. That's just a nomination. For that person to actually be the personal representative and take action in that position, they have to be approved by the court.
Okay.
So you file the will, do a petition to start a probate. People say, why do I have a probate? I've got a will. My will says very clear. I want this person to handle things and these people to receive things. Why isn't it that easy? Well, it's not that easy because when you die with a will, you die with assets just in a deceased person's name now.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way that someone can come in and take possession of those assets, take control of them, and do what your will says to do with them is to be appointed by the court. Well, that's you have to be appointed by the court, meaning the judge has to sign papers on a petition to appoint you and accept the will. So the will gets filed with the court. The personal representative has to put an ad in the newspaper. Anybody might object to this being the last will.
I didn't know that.
You have to be bonded. There's a lot of things that go on with that, and then the judge will eventually, hopefully, sign an order making you the personal representative. So you walk into the story I like to tell is someone has a will and they have one son in a really simple example. And the son's nominated in the will as a personal representative, and the will says 100% to my son.
Okay, very clear.
So the son walks into the bank with a will, and a death certificate. And he says, "Look, my dad died. Here's his will. He leaves everything to me. Look there. I'm named as a personal representative. Hey, bank, give me the money."
Right.
Do you think the bank's going to give him the money?
I have a feeling they're not.
No. Why? Because that might not be the last will.
Explain that, Joe.
Well, you could come to my office this afternoon and sign a will. A week could go by and you have second thoughts. You left everything to your girlfriend.
Oh boy, I see.
You go see another attorney next week and do a different will, leaving everything to your brother. So which will is effective? The last will. The last will you sign revokes all of the prior wills. So the word probate is from a Latin word meaning to prove. So basically you have to prove this is the last will. So you walk into the bank's not going to say, well, yeah, okay, I see that, yeah, here's the money. No, it's not that simple, because then they would be liable.
Right.
Because, the deceased had another will.
And this plays out quite a few times. This isn't a very rare example, I understand.
No, it happens all the time. People come, why does my will? My friend, my parent, my brother, my sister, my child, somebody died, and their will was so simple, it left everything to me. Well, why can't I get the money?
Right.
Well, they got to have proof that's the last will. That's what the whole probate process is to prove that's the last will.
Now, that's an option for folks that think, I just wanted to bring that up because folks think they've taken care of this, and there may be some legal hurdles that they're not unaware of, as you mentioned. Let's talk about the greater population that doesn't have anything in place when they perish.
Well, they think they don't have anything, but they do, because the state of Florida, and most all states, have what's called a statutory will.
Okay.
So if you're in the 70% of people that don't have any documents done and you die, guess what? The state of Florida's made a will for you. And there's a statutory scheme of distribution of what happens to that will when you die.
Predetermined by the state.
Predetermined by the state by statute. Otherwise, the money would just sit there forever.
Really?
So there needs to be some guidelines as to what happens to a deceased person's assets.
Wow.
Now, if it just sits there and nobody does anything, then it eventually goes to the state of Florida to unclaimed funds, and there maybe eventually goes to the school board. There's a way of, if you don't make a claim within 5 years or so on the money of where it goes, and then you have to retrieve it from that agency or from the unclaimed funds.
Now, we're all aware, certainly I'm will and testament, you hear about it all the time. We mentioned the family situation, the example you tell. I just find it unusual that so many people don't do this. There's a negative stigma about this, Joe. They don't want to sit down and talk about this subject, or why don't more people take care of this?
Well, people don't, there are three things, I think, the main three. There are probably a lot more. People don't like dealing with dying.
Right.
People don't like dealing with parting with their assets. People can't often decide what they want to do with their assets. And the last one, I don't really understand this at all. Maybe you can explain it to me. People don't like dealing with attorneys.
Now, how could that be?
Yeah, how could that be? But, those are what you're dealing with. You're dealing with dying. You're dealing with parting with your assets you've acquired your whole lifetime. You're having to go to an attorney's office and talk to attorneys, answer a bunch of questions, and then get together a document. There's a cost involved there. Of course, we have all flat fees on everything we do. If someone wanted to come in and did a will, and I talked to them about their choices, and they still wanted a will, it's like $150.
Okay.
They wanted to do a living trust, which was just a fancy will, and maybe we can talk about the advantages of a living trust.
Right.
If you came to see me, the very same questions I would ask you if we were talking about doing a will are the very same questions I would ask you if you want to do a trust. It's basically, I need to know who you want to put in charge when you die. With a will, it's called a personal representative. With a trust, it's called a successor trustee. And we usually have a backup in both of those positions. And I need a list of the beneficiaries that you have and a contingent if they die. So basically, to create a will or a trust, I need to get a picture of you and your assets and what they are, so I can tell you how those would fit into the your plan. And who do you want to put in charge of the backup, and then a plan of distribution.
Well, you can see there's lots of steps, lots of I's to dot and T's to cross. You need an attorney who knows what they're doing. Certainly, Attorney Joe Pippen right here has had that radio show forever, giving people help all the time in this area. Joe, I just want to address, before we take a break here, people think they can go online and handle this. Say, come on, they get motivated. They finally say, okay, I'm going to do something about this. I just don't want to spend the money and take the time. Let me just go online and do something real quick. What are some of the dangers that people could run into on that situation?
Well, first of all, there's a cost to go online usually to do a will. Now, we charge $150, so you might, find it cheaper than that. But the disadvantage is you're not going to have an attorney to talk to or compare choices to or understand all the words. Like there's usually they ask me about issue per stirpies. What does that mean? You see that? Well, that means if you leave it to John, and if John's not leaving to his issue per stirpies, that's his children down the bloodline.
Oh, I see.
And then they ask me, well, does an adopted child count? Or suppose I don't want to leave equally to all of my children. I want to omit one. So, and suppose one has special needs, or suppose one has an addiction, or what happens if under a bunch of different circumstances they're spendthrift, or their spouse would take it all and spend it right away. I don't want to give it to them. All these special conditions of things you really should be talking to an attorney are much more difficult to try to do yourself online, and then you're going to not have peace of mind that you really did it correctly. And believe me, I've seen a lot of people not do this correctly when they try to do it themselves.
I could imagine that you're going to have to call an attorney anyway for, like you said, definitions and find out what some of these things mean. You're taking your own wealth into your own hands there.
I had this morning is a great example. I had a client that I did a trust for. They came to see me. They sent me a copy of an amendment they tried to do themselves to the trust. And they said, put this in with my records. So I'm looking at it. It's signed and notarized, but guess what? It's not witnessed. So it would fail. What he tried to do himself would have failed just because he thought he could do it himself. He probably found a form somewhere. He signed it. It was notarized. He think everything is all good. Let's just send it to my attorney and tell him to keep it with my file. So, hey, look, I looked at it. And I said, look, this is an invalid amendment. If you want me to do it correctly, I will, And so basically now he's sickly and can't come to my office. Right. So now I talked to him this morning, and he wants me to have a notary sent out with a document so it can be properly executed. Otherwise, what he wanted to do was just failed.
Attorney Joe Pippen here in our Salem Media Group studios. When we come back from the break, we're going to talk more about this. This is an area where a lot of us have a blind spot. I think it's important that we talk about this kind of thing. It may be a subject you don't want to talk about. It's better to talk about it now than get into a situation later. So please don't go anywhere. Stay with us. This is a very special Consumer Quarterback Show. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, and I want to say that we're going to give you a feel-good story, just like Brandon always wants me to. I got a story for you about a guy who saved a little girl drowning. It's really cool. Don't go anywhere, and check out all our partners on ConsumerQB.com.
Hey, I'm Ken Shamrock, and you're here with Consumer Quarterback Show. And I say, Brandon Rhymes, knock out your competition.
To get in touch with Brandon, call 813-670-7372. Online at consumerqb.com.
My friends, when choosing a listing agent to sell your home, their track record is critically important. Dennis Prager here for Brandon and Lindsay Rhymes, owners of Platinum MVP Team at Keller Williams Real Estate. They're consistently rated by the MLS in the top 1% of all Tampa Bay realtors, and that's a big deal. Brandon and Lindsay are always among the top realtors in the state. Call them today at 813-750-0550.
Find them at platinummvpteam.kw.com.
Selling commercial or residential property? Don't leave money on the table. List with the Platinum MVP Team at Keller Williams Realty. I'm Brandon Rhymes. Reach me at 813-670-7372 or platinummvpteam.com.
My name is James DeJerome, and I produce the Consumer Quarterback Show for Brandon Rhymes. The Consumer Quarterback Show is a team, a group of like-minded professionals who partner together to provide our audience sound advice, knowledge, and information to make them wiser consumers. We work with all types of business owners and aggressively promote our local economy. We're currently conducting interviews for our expert contributors. If you own a business or know someone who would benefit from the exposure our show provides, please contact us at 813-750-0550 or online at consumerqb.com.
You're listening to The Consumer Quarterback, Brandon Rhymes, online at consumerqb.com. Brandon is Tampa Bay's #1 consumer advocate for real estate and financial advice. Call Brandon today at 813-670-7372.
That's right. Give Brandon a call. He handles all your real estate needs as a longtime Bay Area realtor. He's got all your property needs handled. He's put together the Consumer Quarterback Show. We've got a great show for you today. We've got our teammates in studio. We've also got our sponsors. The sponsor for this segment is Discovery Golf Cars. Now, Discovery Golf Cars, they're not just for golf anymore. Everyone's using them for business, recreation. These folks at Discovery have all kinds of makes and models. Easy Go, Star EV, Cushman. They sell them new and pre-owned. They'll come out and do mobile repair if you have an issue. They offer renting. You can buy it with financing. Don't go anywhere. They have 2 locations, Tampa and Clearwater. You can check them out online, discoverygolfcars.com. As I mentioned, Brandon is the owner of the Platinum MVP team at Keller Williams. He's got some properties for you. We just went over a few. Johnny's going to throw up a few more for us. Any other properties you hear pitched on the Consumer Quarterback Show, you get directly in touch with Brandon, and he'll take care of you in the Palm Harbor area. 4467 Glenbrook Lane. This is a 5.5. Boy, a 3-car garage, granite countertop, stainless steel appliances. Really sharp-looking property. It's got a 1-year-old roof, brand new roof on it. So if you're looking to get into the Palm Harbor area, 4467 Glenbrook Lane, give Brandon a call, and the Platinum MVP team will take care of all your real estate needs. As I said, commercial, residential. Don't leave money on the table. Get in touch with these guys. Here's one in the Hudson area, okay? So 5832 Beverly. This is a chance for you to build your own dream home. So he's got property available as well, land right in between the water and the Gulf. Wow, look at that. Right on the water. Kayaking, sport fishing. Build your dream home at 5832 Beverly in the Hudson area. So get in touch with Brandon and the Platinum MVP team. Don't leave money on the table, commercial, residential, whether you're going to buy or looking for something, houses, large or small. He's got it all for you. Again, give him a call or check us out online. Attorney Joe Pippen, before the break, was explaining to us a little bit about estates and wills and trusts, the need for them, and what happens to folks out there who've just left this and didn't ever get around to taking care of this. It's not a good situation for your family. Joe, if we could pick up a little bit where you left off, tell us a little more about what happens to folks who maybe have not done everything correctly.
First of all, I think I would like to have a golf cart that had a GPS device, and all my golf balls have a chip in them. And then after you hit your shot, you just jump in, and the golf cart automatically goes and finds your ball.
We talk a lot about technology here on the Consumer Quarterback Show.
I don't know why they haven't thought of that.
We've got an opening for somebody out there, a creative entrepreneur.
Maybe they'll do somebody will run that with that idea and get a patent on it. So.
I can see that.
All right. So what was your question?
Well, we talked a lot about wills and trusts, and we talked about folks that didn't take care of this or thought they went online and handled it in a haphazard manner and maybe didn't get everything correct. Is there a recourse for family members that feel, we forgot about this, or what does the family do?
Well, hey, if you do it wrong, guess what? You don't have anything, so then you go back to what the state's planned for you.
Oh, boy.
And for those, a lot of people, young people, who have young children who don't really have that much in assets yet, or they don't think they have much.
Right.
And they keep putting it off. Well, hey, do you want to put off who's going to raise your children? Because in their will, you name a guardian to raise those, to care for those children.
When you say that, it sure brings it home a lot clearer.
So do you want the state to decide that for you? Do you want the state to decide who's going to be in charge, who's going to be the guardian, and so forth? And if you do nothing, hey, the kids might get all that money at 18. Do you want to give one of your kids? I've heard that kids don't have any financial brains till they're about 25.
I would say I didn't. I was well past that.
So do you want to have a will that, just gives everything outright to your kids no matter what age they are? And what about if they're minors? Well, you can't have a will that leaves anything to a minor, so then you've forced a guardian to have to be appointed by the court to be in charge of that money. Mm-hmm. And if you have a living trust, then you can control the money till a certain age. Like I had a client this morning, and basically the kids were like 22 and 24. But they wanted to do a 5-year stretch. They wanted the kids to get 100% of the income from their share. Then they wanted to get the principal 1/5, 1/4, 1/3, 1/2, and the balance over a 5-year period. They wanted them to stretch it out, the distribution, so they wouldn't be, go buy a brand new sports car, then it's all gone. Yep. So you can control the money in a wise way, in a helpful way. And I think a lot of people that even do estate plans can do harm. Because you can give money outright to someone with an addiction problem.
Yeah.
You can give someone too young and they waste it. You can give a spendthrift money. You can give someone money that wouldn't have the wisdom if they were going through a divorce or there was divorce very likely in the family of commingling the money and not protecting it because an inheritance kept separate is not a marital asset subject to divorce.
Explain that a little bit. I'm not sure I understood that.
All right, so if you were let's say you're in kind of a rocky marriage.
Right.
And then one of your parents die and you receive an inheritance. You can keep that inheritance separate. If you commingle it with your spouse, then it's marital property. Mm-hmm. But if you keep it separate, a lot of times parents will come in and they will do an inheritance trust for their child. So you give it to the child, you make the child a trustee, but this is a reminder to them, you need to keep this separate.
Right.
Because I'm giving it to you, my wonderful daughter, but if you die, I want it to go to my wonderful grandchildren. I don't want it to go to your spouse. I love your spouse, but right. I don't want him to get remarried and the money disappear off of the family line.
Makes perfect sense. It's all things you got to think about. And again, this subject is something that a lot of us put off and don't want to talk about, but you can see all the permutations that have to play out. There's a lot of issues to take care of and a lot of ways that you can make a mistake if you don't have a pro looking at this stuff.
Yeah, and you need somebody to talk to and ask questions. So I asked a lot of questions when I sat down. I asked if it's the first marriage. Why do I ask that? Well, if you're married to someone, and it's the third marriage for both of you, do you want the children of the first three marriages of your spouse who had maybe a child in each marriage, do you want them brought into the estate plan?
Right.
Do you have separate assets now? Have you commingled everything in this fourth marriage together and own it jointly? A lot of little questions, and every one of them has a special meaning in my mind. And, some I ask one question and stop and don't go down that trail anymore. And sometimes I get an answer and I say, well, I've got to ask, 2 or 3 more questions down this trail before I can really come up with a great estate plan for you.
We've had Joe on the show before, and we've talked a lot about celebrities, wealth, lots of famous people that have died without anything in place and had their assets get stuck in legal battles play out, and then this turns the family against each other. This can be a really ugly situation, and it all would have been taken care of if we just had spelled this out with somebody in advance. Yeah,
I think Howard Hughes, there are like 40 people that showed up and said they had his last will or something like that.
Came forward and said, I'm the one.
I'm the one. He wanted to leave everything to me.
Not as easy as it looks.
Another important question in estate planning is, well, who do you want to put in charge? Who do you want to name the personal representative, executor? Who do you want to make, if you do a trust, who do you want to name the trustee? Well, the general advice is if you leaving everything in 3 equal shares to your 3 children, and there are no conflicts between the children that you know of, a lot of people do use their family members. And the classic example I like to use, if you have wonderful son A and awful son B, and you want to give wonderful son A 50% outright, and you love him equally, and you want to treat him equally, you want to do 50-50. Wonderful son gets his outright, but awful son B gets his stretched over like a 10-year period. So do you give wonderful son A his money outright, make him the trustee, and then put him in charge of awful son B's share over 10 years? Or were you going to destroy the relationship between the siblings?
Right.
So then you kind of need an outsider to be a trustee. Now,
makes perfect sense.
That could be another family member who doesn't mind getting involved in a conflict like that, perhaps. Could be a corporate trustee, could be an attorney or CPA. We serve as trustee for some of our clients under circumstances like that.
I think that's a great way to avoid the conflict that is built up year after year. You know how families are. They can bicker over things that may not come into play. It may be a residual grudge that affects them going forward, whereas somebody in your position, certainly objective and can handle what the estate planner had in mind.
Well, let's suppose the 10-year stretch has a little bit of discretion. The trustee has a little bit of discretion on how to distribute the funds. So guess what? Because I've lived through this, thousands of times. The one who gets stretched over the 10 years he knows the trustee has some discretion, there's a constant asking for money. I need money for this. I need money for that. My car broke down. I got a tooth that needs cracked. The plumber came and I didn't have money to pay him. I mean, they have 1,000 reasons now, always asking for money. So it's just, you've got my money. You've already been distributed yours, and now you're handling mine, and I need it for whatever reason. There's 1,000 reasons you can come up with to need money. So a family member has a tough time being a trustee when there's discretion on the trustee of how to distribute the money.
Absolutely. I would not want that job. So that's a place you can bring in a professional. I never even considered that. We're coming into a break now, Joe. We got about 30 seconds. I want to give you, just expand on that a little bit if you could. Your role, you're both the one who can help them get the trust in place and answer questions about what it is they're doing, but also there's an administration capability that you can provide.
Absolutely, and that's a good choice sometimes. And it could be an attorney, a CPA, or even a corporate trustee. Banks and brokerage houses have corporate trustees. So that really should be a discussion point with who would be the best trustee. Because you say you're a real successful person, but you have 2 children who have average jobs, and the one who dies is done very, very, very well.
Right.
So do you give the money to manage to someone who's never managed money and couldn't even manage their own?
These are all tough questions that you're going to have to answer, and better to answer them now than in a position where your kids might not get any of your assets. So Attorney Joe Pippen on the show. Great show today. We got more coming up for you. And don't forget about our feel-good story. I got a story about a guy who saved a little girl drowning, and they came back and helped him out. It's one of those stories that we always talk about in the Consumer Quarterback Show where you're paying it forward. Don't go anywhere. Check us all out online, consumerqb.com.
This is Chris Voss, former FBI lead hostage negotiator and owner of the Black Swan Group, and you're listening to Consumer Quarterback Show hosted by my friend Brandon Rhymes.
To get in touch with Brandon, call 813-670-7372. Online at consumerqb.com.
Alrighty, let me know when you want to continue. Alrighty. In that case, everyone, please stand by. Sure. Are we good? Alrighty, everyone, please stand by.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You're listening to the Consumer Quarterback, Brandon Rhymes, cutting through your typical media nonsense and offering you a rational and unbiased perspective on current events and life in Tampa Bay. Online at consumerqb.com.
That's right, consumerqb.com has a list of all the partners and the sponsors for the Consumer Quarterback Show. The sponsor for this segment is Replenish Iv Solutions. Now, Steve and Lisa Gunnan have been partners on the show for quite a while now. Really unique business model. You know, Replenish Iv Solutions is all about making you feel energized, hydrated, and replenished. They have safe and effective ways to restore your body's systems with crucial vitamins and nutrients. They're going to give you an IV drip directly into your bloodstream to get that immune system back to where it needs to be, especially this time of COVID-19. Everyone's worried about their immune system. You know, they've got multiple locations, but they'll also come to you. If you're too busy, Steve and Lisa Gunnan will come to you with Replenish Iv Solutions. Check out everything they've got online at replenishivsolutions.com. Again, very cool partners of the show. Been with us a long time, and we certainly encourage you to patronize their business. And, of course, Brandon is the owner of the Platinum MVP team at Keller Williams. We've got properties for you, both commercial, residential. We got open land for building. We're going to throw them up on the screen now. Johnny's got a few for you. In the Clearwater area, 1780 Clearwater Largo Road. This is a corner location with commercial opportunity, 2,300 square feet. You know, it's a corner location with 2 garage doors. It's got an office storefront, 12 parking spaces. So a commercial opportunity from the Platinum MVP team in the Clearwater area, 1780 Clearwater Largo Road. If you're interested, give Brandon a call. As I said, commercial and residential opportunities. Here's one in the Bel Air area. This is a residential home, a 3-2 built in 2004. It's newly renovated. It's got wood floors, real close to the beaches. If you're looking to get into the Bel Air area, give Brandon a call, 422 Wildwood Way. The Platinum MVP team at Keller Williams Realty has properties, even in this time of low inventory throughout the Bay. Get in touch with Brandon for all your real estate needs. Don't leave money on the table. All right, before we took the break, we had Attorney Joe Pippen, and we were talking about some of the different things that have occurred with folks, a way they can represent themselves with a representative to help distribute these funds. So it's not as simple as just assigning a family member who he said may create conflict or be involved, may not want all this arguing. There's somebody outside that can handle that for you. And it started us talking in the break about famous celebrities and different folks that have passed away without anything in place. And Joe, you said Prince. I can imagine his estate was massive.
Oh, sure, and he died, at a young age unexpectedly.
Right. So nothing in place and tons of people.
Actually, Channel 13 came out to interview me about dying without a will because they were using Prince as the everybody knew at that point that Prince died without a will and what happens to the family. Well, again, the very first thing we talked about today was what happens if you die without a will. It goes by state statutes.
So Prince's massive estate, everything goes right into the state's hands, and they decide what happens at
Right.
that
Same
point.
with Aretha Franklin, who died
Now,
without
again,
a will.
wow, a long life, a huge entertainer who must have a giant estate.
And I don't think she had children, as I remember. I think she had siblings.
Okay.
And then if a sibling died, that share went to the siblings' children.
Boy, I could see the sibling thing being rough because their difference in age is not very much. So there's going to be another permutation as another sibling passes away.
And so you lost total control of the money. You might not have never given to one of your siblings' children, or any of them maybe,
Right.
or at least some of them you wouldn't have wanted to. You lost your chance to give to charities that you supported during your life. You could easily do a document that supports your church or charity.
Right.
You lost your chance to do any planning, tax planning. Now, Prince and Aretha Franklin and
Well, James Gandolfini was one, a famous actor.
yeah, you lost your chance to do good things with your estate. I mean, you can really do some great things. One of my clients died, gave $1 million to St. Jude's Hospital. So that was one of the. I like to go personally distribute checks to charities. So I flew out to Nashville. Let's see where's St. Jude's. It's in Tennessee, I think.
As a representative for this gentleman who gave this money.
And he was a pro golfer, and the pro golfer had a group of pro golfers that showed up, and they had a nice little ceremony planned, and all the executive council was there for St. Jude's, and we had a nice presentation, a little lunch afterwards, and all that. So I went out personally. They made a big supersized check for me to deliver the $1 million check.
Very cool.
But you can really do neat things. I've had people leave to churches and they wanted to build a children's wing for the church. All kind of things like that.
Yeah. I see educational opportunities, chances, like you said, to put your name into charitable buildings. We deal a lot with the Children's Cancer Society, and they have a lot of folks that help them. Facility development's a big thing for them in addition to just straight donation. There's all kinds of great things you could do with your money. It'd be a shame to just get it tied up in the state.
Yeah, and that's what happens if you do nothing.
So really doing nothing is not an option, folks. The reason we have Joe on the show and the reason we feel this show is important today, we're encouraging you to take that step, look into this, if not for you, for your family.
Absolutely. And, the last thing that people are going to remember about you is the will or trust that you signed.
That's right.
And you can also use the opportunity when you're creating one to leave a little personal message for your family in your document.
Do you have an example of something like that?
Well, if you're a Christian person, for example, you can leave a Christian testimony of how important, I'm John Smith, being of sound mind, disposed of memory, and believing in Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. You can give a little testimony clause of your faith or something very special to you that will make them remember you even more.
Right.
And, the biggest impact you can have on a person sometimes is when you die and you've left them and how they remember you and what you want them to remember about you. So some people that listen to this, I know this is a conservative talk, and some of the other Salem families are faith talk, but when we talk about this, when I go into churches and give talks, you can leave a personal statement of faith, whatever that is, in your document to have some influence on your kids after you pass on.
It's something to consider. There's a chance for you to create a legacy and influence in a positive direction after you're gone. It's something that you might not consider as you're here on Earth, but certainly very cool to think that you've passed and still have the ability to influence in a positive way your family, friends, other folks in the community.
Now, one thing you can do, you can omit children.
So if you have a situation where you might have a kid who's not one of your favorite children.
Well, there are lots and lots and lots of reasons that people have to do that once in a while. I would say it's not a real common thing. But I always put language in my document, I have omitted so-and-so for personal reasons, period. I never put the reason.
So it's just spelled out that this is an omission, but I don't have to say anything.
I remembered you, but I don't want to leave you anything. Really, and that's important to do that because if it's silent, I give everything 50-50 to 2 children when he had 3.
Oh, he just forgot. That's what they say. Oh, he just forgot about me.
So you put language in there. You don't put the reason because reasons can be contested.
I see.
Anything can be contested. But I always put in there I've omitted for personal reasons. It's hard just to show that you remembered them.
I got you. So there's something to consider. It's not necessarily about rewarding the folks that you wanted to reward, but it's certainly something you can do. I mean, that's your option. It's your money.
Well, some examples are somebody might have left the family, move out to California somewhere, and they just refuse to talk to any family member. They just don't want to be part of the family. So, why should you remember them, basically?
Right.
Some families have children in prison for life, and there's probably no chance of parole. Well, do you want to leave them anything, and why? Why? Well, you could just leave it to their children.
Right.
Maybe. Some people have horrible addictions. Now, a person has a choice on an addiction. You could omit the person, of course, but you could also leave them a share and have it subject to random and mandatory testing as an opportunity for that person to receive their inheritance as long as they, stay clean.
Mm-hmm. I recall as a kid, I went to school with a very wealthy family. I don't want to say the name, but they're in the realm of Carnegie. And the family, I'd never, met anyone in the family who had a job. They'd all been, very wealthy for many, many, many years. And I recall him knowing the exact days when he was to inherit. At 18, he was to get a certain piece. At 25, at 32. And I assume that all those folks that controlled the trust were still alive. They had just set this example up, set this kind of timetable up for him, and let him know, here's how this works, and here's where it's going to go. It wasn't so much a surprise to him that was going to occur. I thought that was unusual at the time.
No, I think it's very common, particularly if you have, you come in and see me and you've got a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old, and you want to leave it everything 50-50. Well, you don't know how financially responsible they're going to be. You don't know if they're going to drugs or alcohol are going to come into the picture. You don't know who their spouse is going to be. You don't know how ambitious they are toward education, even high school or college or something there. You don't know anything really at that age.
Right.
So it's very common for a person, I would say, to give them maybe income, have the trust pay for college, medical education needs. But as far as an outright distribution, maybe spin off the income once they turn 21 and do the principal, a third at 25, a half at 30, and a balance at 35. I think it's very, very common to do that in estate plans.
How common is the challenge from the child to say, no, I need it now, I want it now, they intended to give me this money, there's no sense in waiting, I have an urgent need, and we're going to fight this?
Well, the trustee has to follow the terms of the trust, so they could hire an attorney to fight it, but most likely the court's going to honor what the person put in the four corners of the document.
Okay.
Now, a lot of times the trustee has discretion, so some discretion things are to pay for medical causes.
In the example we give, a medical issue arises and there's a need for those funds now, the trustee can break that.
Right, and sometimes you pay for education, you pay for medical. Sometimes people will say, well, I want to give them the down payment for a home if they choose to buy a home. So when they tell me that, I said, look, they could get the down payment for a home and they could buy a home, but then they could turn right around 3 months later and sell it and keep the money. So you have to be a little bit careful.
Right.
You have to be a little bit careful on that.
Is there something like a 401k or a way that money, while it's being held, is in being invested or controlled by an investment advisor?
Well, a 401k is not always part of the estate plan because of 401k IRAs, pensions have named beneficiaries. And that operates directly. You give the holder, the IRA company, the death certificate, and they have to get distributed outright to the beneficiaries. But you can make a trust the beneficiary, and the trust could control it.
Okay.
Somewhat. Now, there's a 10-year rule where it has to be distributed within 10 years. But if you have it come into a trust, there has to be special language so all the taxes wouldn't be due at once.
I forgot about the taxes, of course. Something to consider. They're not going to forget, even if you do. They likely will not forget to tax those funds.
Yeah, so it's a lot of special planning that people come in. So, my normal thing is you come in, I ask you a bunch of questions. So I want to cover all the areas. I want to see if there are any special needs or circumstances. If you have a special needs child in your family that's on government benefits, then you want to be careful because if you give them money, they could lose their benefits. And then if they lose all the benefits, they're going to run through their inheritance real quick for medical needs, lose all their benefits and spend all the money, their inheritance, then they have to go back on government benefits. So there's a way to protect all that.
Did not even consider that. That's why we talk about working with professionals on the Consumer Quarterback Show. In this area, there's no way. I mean, I can't imagine that any layperson knows the terminology and feels comfortable filing these documents. You better get in touch with the professional. Joe, just in the last few minutes, we've just talked about 4 or 5 scenarios I never even considered. So I don't see how that initial question, those initial interviews that Joe provides, that's going to steer the whole thing and show you exactly what you need.
Yeah, and that's why you shouldn't really do it yourself.
Right.
I mean, you might think you save a little money, but it costs more in the long run.
Because this kind of thing can tie up. This is the kind of issue that separates families. I'm sure you've seen fights and issues that arise that turns these people against each other, and that's exactly the opposite of probably the intention of the estate holder.
You talked a little bit about contesting. How does that work? Well, the two most common reasons that people contest wills and trusts or estate planning documents are incompetence and undue influence. Now, it's fairly easy to see as an attorney incompetence.
Okay.
I mean, because you ask questions, and if they can focus, like you and I are focusing right now, looking at one another,
right,
and I'm asking questions and you're responding, and we're both talking and we're both coherent. But if you're talking to an incompetent person, they'll often look to the person they're with to help them answer the question, or they can't stay focused long enough in a fairly short conversation to stay with you during the moment of asking questions, and they wander off in all kinds of ways.
I see.
The biggest reason documents get contested is undue influence. Now, a good example of that is, a child brings the parent in to do estate planning, and the child wants to do all the talking, number one, so you have to shut them up kind of nicely to let them talk to your client. And the problem is, just because the child drove them there and is sitting there is enough for undue influence.
I see. I can easily see that happening.
And so, and particularly, I stop it pretty quick. And usually you see this coming up, and I'll say, look, before we even get started, if you're doing documents that favor this child that's with you, I said, we shouldn't even talk further, because I'm not going to do the document, number one, because it could be challenged because of undue influence.
Right.
And, you got 3 children, and this one gets 50, and the other 2 get 25, and they contest, they win because the child is sitting here.
Simple as that.
And even if I didn't know the child was with you today, and they're sitting out in the parking lot, and they just drove you, and they're waiting for you to come back to the car, guess what? That child gets in a deposition, and they asked him 50 questions to make them look bad.
Right.
Were you with your parent that day? Did you take them to the office that day? Did you drop them off that day? Did you?
So regardless of the intent, the appearance is impropriety. It looks fishy, and that's going to be a problem.
That's a problem, and they're going to lose.
All right, we're coming into a break now. Attorney Joe Pippen's been here. As you can see, there's so many issues, permutations, different things that you don't consider. I've learned a few things today that I didn't even consider. After this break, when we come back, we're going to finish up with Joe. I got a great story for you about a guy that saved a young girl's life, and they went looking for him afterwards and found him. I got the kind of heartwarming stuff that Brandon always wants us to do in the Feel Good section. And don't forget about our sponsors and our partners. They're all available at consumerqb.com.
Hey, this is Grant Cardone, and you're listening to Consumer Quarterback Show, hosted by my friend Brandon Rhymes. Do not touch that dial. I'll come right through the radio and grab your throat.
To get in touch with Brandon, call 813-670-7372. Online at consumerqb.com.
This is Diane Vance with Fairway Independent Mortgage, a member of the Consumer Quarterback Show. Please give me a call for any of your mortgage needs. We do all sorts of loans. If you would like information on a mortgage, you can text me or call me at 727-647-8199. I will take care of all your mortgage needs. Go to my website at dianevance.com.
Ian Beckles here with my man Brandon Rhymes, a.k.a. the real estate quarterback. Brandon, what's happening with the market?
Thanks, Ian. We are in a low inventory market, so any of our listeners are homeowners and would like a free comparable market analysis or a 2.5% listing, we will honor this for the first 3 listeners who call or text in 813-773-1253. Free CMA and a 2.5% real estate listing at 813-773-1253.
Check out consumerqb.com. Selling commercial or residential property? Don't leave money on the table. List with the Platinum MVP team at Keller Williams Realty. I'm Brandon Rhymes. Reach me at 813-670-7372 or platinummvpteam.com.
You're listening to The Consumer Quarterback, Brandon Rhymes, online at consumerqb.com. Brandon is Tampa Bay's #1 consumer advocate for real estate and financial advice. Call Brandon today at 813-670-7372.
That's right. Give Brandon a call for all your real estate needs. Again, he owns the Platinum MVP team. He's been a realtor in the Bay Area for quite a while now. The sponsor for this segment is Brothers Easy Moving, and the Brothers Easy Moving is the official moving partner of the Consumer Quarterback Show. They got to be that because they moved Brandon himself into his new home, and he saw what a great job these guys did. They were moving furniture at 8 o'clock at night. So we said, you guys are definitely the official moving partner of the Consumer Quarterback Show. They've got lots of great reviews. They're Angie's Super Service List award winners, and you can check out all their 5-star reviews at brotherseasymoving.com. Local or long distance, get in touch with Brothers Easy Moving for all your moving needs. All right, and our property for this segment is, again, because Brandon owns the Platinum MVP team at Keller Williams, we've got a property for you in the Clearwater Beach area, 1010 Bay Esplanade, rather. 4-3 with a 2-car garage. It's got a private apartment and a sun deck. So if you're looking to get into the Clearwater Beach area, 1010 Bay Esplanade has a really updated kitchens, those new white countertops and kitchen cabinets that Chris Robinson from About Face tells us about. Get in touch with Brandon if you want to check that one out. Again, it's 1010 Bay Esplanade in the Clearwater Beach area. He and the Keller Williams Realty team, the Platinum MVP team at Keller Williams, has all your real estate needs. Don't leave money on the table. Commercial, residential. Brandon is the guy for all your real estate. All right, I have a feel-good story for you. Brandon started the show years ago, and he wanted to make sure we inject a little positivity out there. Don't get stuck in all the negative media out there. Make sure you think and realize there's lots of positive stuff going on. I'm going to tell you a story about a Texas family that wants to give back to a man who saved their daughter's life. So Haley Whiting is a 10-year-old girl. She was on vacation in Monterey, California with her family. She suddenly got caught in a riptide. Her mother, Samantha, tried to swim out to save her daughter, only to find herself in trouble of danger of drowning as well. So nearby, a gentleman named Kevin Causey, he and his fiance heard the screaming. He says, I've been swimming since I was 3 years old competitively. I felt like I could get them. I ran out there as soon as I could. I got to the mom. I knew she was struggling. And then he brought Haley, the daughter, back in. The months went by after the save, and Samantha could not find this gentleman. She wanted to thank him. She only knew him by his first name. So she never stopped looking for him. Earlier this week, she posted about the rescue in a Facebook group, and within hours, they reconnected. You know, Samantha is now working to raise money to give Cozy and his fiancée their dream wedding because they had to cancel their wedding because of COVID-19. She says, if it wasn't for him risking his life in such a selfless act, I would have lost not only my own life, but my baby girl. They said, I want to take time to raise the money for Kevin and his fiancée to have their dream wedding. He certainly deserves more than this. And again, I just want to talk about the idea that you can jump in there and help somebody. You know, this guy took time out of it, risked his own life to help others, and they took the time to find him and repay that kind of act of kindness. And that's what Brandon's all about with the random act of kindness. Certainly we want you to consider committing a random act of kindness, as he does it, to close the show every day. Okay, so we had attorney Joe Pippen on the show today. Lots of great information, tons of stuff I didn't know about estate planning. I want to give Joe some time to summarize, if he could, the last couple of minutes of the show, because this stuff is really important. I want to make sure everyone out there gets a feel for what they need to do to take care of this stuff. Go ahead, Joe.
Well, everyone has 3 options in estate planning, basically. You can do nothing, have a will, or have a trust. If you do nothing, as we talked, the state of Florida does it for you. So none of you would want to work your whole lifetime, accumulate and save assets and plan for the future and die and have the state do all of your decision-making for you of how your family will be taken care of in an estate plan. Now, you can do something and have a will, and actually most people that do estate planning have wills. What you need to know about wills, it's great that you did that. It's great that you appointed a personal representative. It's great that you have a plan of distribution. But you need to know when you die, your will's going to go through a probate process if you die with anything just in your name. And by the way, that's the only asset a will, that's the only thing a will controls is assets in just your deceased person's name. And probate is an expensive cost. It's 3 to 6% in fees usually, maybe sometimes more. It takes 6 months to a year, and it's really taking closer to a year these days with all the backups in the court system. The third option is a living trust, which is just a fancy will. You create the trust. You're the grantor, the owner. You're the trustee. The trust has your social security number, same tax number. You file the same tax return. You name who's going to take over. You have a plan of distribution. All that has to be followed. You avoid probate. The 4 big advantages of a trust: you avoid probate, you avoid guardianship, it's quick, easy, fast, efficient, it's a private document. You can have spelt out a very detailed, you can have a very simple plan of distribution, or it can be more detailed with stretch provisions. You want to take care of children with special needs and special language in the trust. You can put your homestead, which we didn't talk about, into a trust without losing the homestead advantages. Save the cap. You still get a stepped-up cost basis upon death, even if you put your homestead into a trust. Homestead would not have to go through a court process through the probate court, petition to determine homestead and all that. You can avoid all that with a living trust and avoid probate, avoid guardianship, and have a private document, a will upon death, a public record. So if they would like more information, I have a poster sheet that's absolutely free. If you want to email me your name and address, we'll send out this poster sheet. It has everything I've just talked about, all on a big poster sheet. On the other side has all of our office locations that we have in Florida. We have about 15 office locations with all the phone numbers. And you can request all that at Joe, J-O-E, at ATTYPIP.com. That's Joe at ATTYPIP.com.
Joe, tell me about the radio show. You know, Joe has his own radio show, has had one for quite a while, Ask an Attorney.
I have the longest running radio show in Florida. Started in 1984. Every week I'm on usually several stations with a live show where I just answer legal questions.
Taking calls.
So I just sit down behind the mic, said the law office is open, here's the phone number, call the show, and people call in. On the Salem family, for those of you who are listening to 860, the program is on 860 at 8 o'clock on Saturday morning. It's also on 570, 910, 930, the other Salem family of stations. We're on stations all over the state of Florida, about 15, anywhere from Tampa area to Orlando to Jacksonville. With all of them stream the live show, Ask an Attorney.
Ask an Attorney. He's Joe Pippen. He's got a radio show, a television show. You can catch him all around the area. I want to thank him for coming in today and providing some information, a lot of knowledge I had no idea about. I think a lot of folks in the Bay Area benefited from today's show. Very good show. Thanks so much for coming in, Joe. I want to encourage everyone out there to take a look at consumerqb.com. You know, we've managed to get this group of sponsors, team members, great folks that come on our air and take time out of their day to provide some value for you. We feel like the Consumer Quarterback Show does just that, provides value to all the folks in the Bay Area. I want to thank Brandon for starting the show about 7 years ago. I want to thank him for giving me the opportunity to host when he's not around. He's going to be back real soon. I want to encourage everybody again to do business with our partners. They've taken time out of their day to provide some information for you. We hope you patronize their businesses. Check them all out online at consumerqb.com.
You've been listening to The Consumer Quarterback, Brandon Rhymes. Whether it's real estate, consumer, or financial advice, let Brandon call your next play. Contact Brandon Rhymes at 813-670-7372. That's 813-670-7372. Online at consumerqb.com. And join us next time for the Consumer Quarterback Show.